Imagine a mind so advanced. It lived 500 years in the future. A man who sketched flying machines, armored tanks, and robotic knights centuries before they were ever built. We all know the name Leonardo da Vinci, but who was this man, really? And what drove him to such relentless, almost maddening genius? His story begins in 1452. In the small, quiet hills of Vinci, Italy, born out of wedlock, Leonardo was denied a formal education. He wasn't taught Latin or complex mathematics. So, he turned to the greatest teacher available to him, nature. While other children played, young Leonardo sat by the river banks, obsessively studying the flight of birds and the swirling currents of water. Recognizing his son's raw talent, his father brought him to the bustling heart of the Renaissance, Florence. Here, the teenager was apprenticed to the renowned artist Andrea del Verrocchio. The workshop was a chaotic, brilliant place filled with painters, sculptors, and engineers. Legend has it that when young Leonardo painted an angel on one of his master's canvases, it was so breathtakingly perfect that Verrocchio put down his brush and vowed never to paint again. But for Leonardo, painting wasn't enough. In fact, he often found it boring. He didn't just want to capture what the world looked like. He wanted to understand the hidden mechanics of the entire universe. By his late 20s, Leonardo was hungry for greater challenges. He wrote a bold letter to the powerful Duke of Milan. But he didn't pitch himself as a painter. He pitched himself as a military engineer. He promised terrifying weapons of war, catapults, giant crossbows, and portable bridges to crush the Duke's enemies. Intrigued, the Duke hired him. Leonardo left Florence and entered the grand, imposing gates of Milan, ready to change the world. In Milan, his imagination completely exploded. His workshop became a mad scientist's laboratory. He sketched out designs for a giant wooden armored vehicle, the world's first concept for a tank bristling with cannons. He even designed primitive diving suits with breathing tubes, imagining soldiers walking silently across the bottom of the sea to drill holes in enemy ships. But there was a problem. Leonardo was a notorious perfectionist and a terrible procrastinator. He would stare at ceilings for hours, driving his wealthy patrons absolutely crazy while missing deadline after deadline. His biggest failure came when he spent years designing a colossal 24-foot bronze horse for the Duke. Before it could be cast in bronze, war broke out. Invading French soldiers used his massive clay model for target practice, destroying it completely. The bronze was melted down to make cannons. Devastated and humiliated, a middle-aged Leonardo retreated back to the one thing he knew he could control: a paintbrush. He was hired to paint a mural on the dining hall wall of a monastery in Milan. Working obsessively on the scaffolding, he decided to capture the exact, tense moment Jesus revealed that one of his disciples would betray him. The Last Supper became an instant masterpiece. The psychology, the shock, and the pure human emotion on the apostles' faces had never been seen before in the history of art. But Leonardo, always experimenting, used a new, unstable mix of oil and tempera. Almost immediately, the paint began to crack and flake off the wall. His greatest masterpiece was dying right before his eyes. To make matters worse, the French army captured Milan. Forced to flee into the rainy night, Leonardo became a wandering genius without a home. He returned to Florence as a celebrity, but felt like an outsider in his own city. A fierce, bitter rivalry sparked between the aging Leonardo and a hot-headed, immensely talented young sculptor named Michelangelo, who constantly mocked Leonardo for his unfinished works. Seeking quiet focus, Leonardo began a modest commission, a portrait of a silk merchant's wife named Lisa. He would spend the rest of his life working on this single, small canvas, using a revolutionary technique called sfumato. He blended the shadows on her face without any harsh lights, giving the Mona Lisa a smile that seemed to change depending on how you looked at it. He loved the painting so much, he never gave it to the merchant who paid for it. He carried it in his luggage everywhere he went until the day he died. But art was taking a backseat. Leonardo's true obsession had become the dark, forbidden mechanics of the human body. He spent his nights in freezing hospital morgues to understand life. He believed he had to dissect death. He peeled back skin and muscle, drawing the human anatomy with terrifying, beautiful precision. In an era without refrigeration, he dissected over 30 human corpses, enduring unimaginable smells and conditions. His discoveries were centuries ahead of their time. He figured out how the heart valves worked and mapped the human vascular system, discoveries modern medicine wouldn't confirm until the 20th century. He realized that the human body was just a beautiful, biological machine. Bones were levers, muscles were pulleys. And if a human was just a machine, then maybe a machine could be built to do what humans could not. Like fly, he designed incredible flying machines, giant wooden bats powered by human pedals and gears. But they never flew. The math was perfect, but the heavy materials of the 16th century simply couldn't generate enough lift. Leonardo was a man trapped by the technology of his own era. His mind was in the modern age, but his hands were stuck in the Renaissance. Getting older and increasingly tired, Leonardo moved to Rome, hoping for a steady work from the Pope. But Rome belonged to young, vibrant artists like Raphael. Leonardo found himself sidelined, wandering the grand halls of the Vatican, a relic of the past. The Pope even banned him from doing any more anatomical dissections, cutting him off from his greatest passion. His notebooks devolved into a chaotic, desperate maze of ideas. He bounced from geometry to water dynamics to military engineering, unable to finish anything. Finally, in his twilight years, salvation came from a surprising place. The young King Francis I of France invited the aging genius to live at his royal chateau. The king didn't demand paintings or weapons. He just wanted to talk to the smartest man in the world. He gave Leonardo a generous pension and a comfortable manor, but time was running out. A stroke severely paralyzed Leonardo's right hand. The master who painted the Mona Lisa and the Last Supper could no longer hold a brush, confined to his desk. Using his left hand, he drew apocalyptic visions of massive floods washing away humanity, reflecting the chaotic storm inside his own fading mind. He spent his final months desperately trying to organize thousands of pages of his notebooks, realizing he was running out of time to share what he knew. Looking into the mirror, the great Leonardo da Vinci felt a crushing sense of failure. He had started 100 revolutions, but finished almost none. Legend says that on his deathbed, he wept and apologized to God and humanity for not doing enough with his talents. He died in the arms of the French king. The year was 1519. He was 67 years old. Upon his death, his notebooks, over 7,000 pages of genius, were scattered, sold off, and lost in dark cellars for hundreds of years. His visions of helicopters, tanks, and anatomical perfection sat gathering dust, entirely hidden from the world. It was only centuries later, when scholars finally pieced his journals back together, that humanity realized what it had lost. The world finally saw that the man who painted the Mona Lisa was merely moonlight masking the brightness of the sun. He was the most relentlessly curious mind to ever exist, a man who refused to see boundaries between art, science, and nature. Leonardo da Vinci didn't just predict the future, he lived in it, 500 years before the rest of us finally caught up.